Hi YouTube, it's Kelly. I'm back again with another video in my Force of Will budget deck series. Today I decided to cover less single cards and more of like a budget core, if you want to call it that. This is the most common one I've seen people posting about and using, so I figured it'd be a good one to start with. So, I have decided to show you guys the Card Soldier deck core thing, I guess, if you want to call it that. The reason why I picked this one is, like I said, it's the most popular one, it's the most obvious one, and it really only needs all commons and uncommons, and then one playset of a rather cheap rare. Most of, if not all, the stuff you'll need for this is out of the second Grimm set, TAT. So, it's pretty easy to get if you just like want to invest in one set. Just invest in that set and you should be able to get all the commons and uncommons for this. And because of, even though this card is shiny, she is extremely inexpensive because she pretty much only works for this deck. So, I guess I'm gonna start by showing you Queen of Hearts. She is the only shiny you need to make the deck technically work. She's in a way a mini ruler specifically for your card soldiers. So, she is a 4-drop, 200/600, with continuous. You may pay one less to play Card Soldier Resonators, meaning that first effect, as long as she's on the board, all your card soldiers are 1-drops, which is fantastic. Makes this deck rather aggressive, a little bit swarmy in that you can keep casting the cards. Yeah, so that first effect's really good, but she also has another effect that makes her even better. Next up, she says when she enters, you grab up to one of each of the card soldiers from your discard back to your hand. So say she's a 4-drop, so you'd probably be playing her mid to late game. Do that, you get a bunch of the ones back that have been destroyed, and they all cost only 1 for her. So pretty much she gives you fodder back in your hand. And her last effect is what makes her really good and makes this deck playable. Is her activate, you can tap her, banish 2 card soldiers, destroy target Resonator. So you get a bunch of guys, you swarm the field, you get a bunch back from your discard with her, you make other card soldiers with with an addition in the deck, and you banish them to spot removal, big stuff that you can't get over. So, because of that, she's really good. If I was going to make the deck, and I was going to make this as cheap as possible, I would just run a playset of everything, make it really easy. But, yeah, because of that, she's really good, and she's kind of like the center of your deck that makes it all flow together. So, next I'll show you guys what each of the card soldiers actually do. Starting with Diamond. Diamond is a 2-drop, or with your queen on the board, a 1-drop. Red and colorless Resonator. He is a card soldier type, meaning, obviously, he's a card soldier. And a 4/4, and when he says, when this card is put into a graveyard from your field, it deals 200 damage to target Resonator. So, not only do you get a body, not only do you get a 1-drop body, you get a body that when it dies, you deal more damage. So, even though 200 seems a little underwhelming, it's actually pretty good, because say you banish him with her effect, you have 2 of them on the board, you banish both of them, destroy Resonator, then you can do 200 damage for each one of these you banished to another card on their field. So say they have a 400 and under card, you use her, banish 2 of these, pop off a big thing on their board, pop off the little thing on their board. So essentially you've gotten rid of 2 annoying things on your board for, like, 2. You've lost 2 guys, and he's not the biggest one, so he's really in the deck. It's sad, but he's meant to die. And I mean, as long as you have another one of her to play, you'll get it back. So, good card. Next up, I'm going to show you Card Soldier Heart. She's your defensive card soldier. Hi kitty. She is a 2-drop, or a 1-drop, 0/7, and her continuous effect is, if damage would be dealt to a Queen of Hearts you control, it's dealt to this card instead. Meaning if they try to attack her, if they try to blow her, like, oh god, if they try to ping her off with thunder or other burn effects, they have to hit this one first. So she's like a lightning rod, protects her, she's got a decently sized butt, so she will, be able to redirect damage and keep her on the board for longer so you can set up. After that, we've got Card Soldier Spade. He is, in my opinion, the most important one. He is your attacking card soldier. He is the one that you want to be swinging with every turn, because he says, he's a 1-drop on his own. He is the only one that's a 1-drop on his own, making him really good because he's kind of this deck's budget Tinkerbell. He says he's 200-200, and he gets plus 200 for each other card soldier you control. So say you have all 4 of these on the board. He's getting plus 600, so he's an 8-8. Say you have 4 of him on the board. They're all 8-8s. He's really good. He is your attacker. He is the one you're going to be doing damage with. He's important. So, and he's my favorite. Then the last printed card soldier is Card Soldier Club. She's a 2-drop or 1-drop, 4/4. With an enter ability, you reveal the top 4 cards of your main deck and put a Card Soldier card among them into your hand and put the rest into your grave. Now she's good because you play her and you get another one. But she also, say you reveal the most amazing mill and you hit just 4 card soldiers. So you play her, get 1 to your hand, put the others in your discard, cast her, get them all back. So between these two, if you just have hit the best mills off of this card, then you're gonna plus in your hand like astronomically. So all in all, individually, they're not that great, but when you put them together and you pair them up with their queen, they're really good, making this a great budget deck for new players, especially good for people who want to get used to the game or want to have a really synergistic core and just splash in other like fancy cards just to make it work. Like you're playing black-red, so if you have them, you could play Thunders. If you want to make it a little more fancy, you could play Stoning to Deaths. You could play Cinderella. She would actually work really well because you could banish these guys. For instance, banish him, deal more damage, and then deal damage with his effect. So there's a couple obviously pricey cards that would definitely make this work, but because there's so many common and cheap cards, you can also just make a really inexpensive deck. So next up I'm going to show you some cards that I would suggest running. They're all commons and uncommons themselves, so they really add to the whole budget deck feel. So the first one, if I can find him. Ah, it's over here. Sorry about that. The first one is kind of obvious. When you're looking through your cards, you'll probably look at this card and think, huh, I bet that goes with card soldiers. But it's called Joker Suit. It is a 1-drop edition Resignator. It's clothes. And it's equally just as important as all the other guys because of its first effect. Resignator with this gains plus 200, and a card soldier in addition to its own race, meaning if you slap this on any other thing in your deck, you're going to make it bigger, and you're going to make it a card soldier, meaning it adds to her effect to be banished, and it adds to his effect to bump him. So this card is really good. I love it. And its second effect makes it just that much better. It says, when this card is put into a graveyard from the field, you may add it to a Resignator you control. So say you've got your queen, say this is equipped to, I don't know, this thing, and you use her effect, you really don't want him anymore, don't need him, tap her. He's a card soldier, so you can banish him with her effect. Banish him. This one would technically go to the grave, but instead you can keep it on your board and reattach it to, I don't know, another one you have. So it stays on the board, and as long as you work your board presence correctly, it's really good. So that one is also a common, meaning really easy to get, just adds to the whole budget feel, which is fantastic. Excuse me real fast. So, those are the cards that I would say you absolutely need. Just a playset of all these guys. One, running a playset makes it really easy because it fills up more space in your deck with budget cards, making it less mandatory to have other more expensive cards. But if you want to add a little more flair without spending more money, here are some other cards that I would highly suggest you run. You might recognize these two from the previous video I did. Hunter in the Black Forest and Pumpkin Witch, two fantastic commons out of Crimson Moon Fairy Tale. He is a 1-drop 3/3, so if you play him, slap him on there, you have a, in a way, 2-drop 5/5 card soldier with swiftness. Great. And then her, you play her and all your stuff gets flying and swiftness until end of turn, meaning if you've got your great, fantastic field, you're swarmed with spades, you've got pumped up stuff, pop her on the board, swing for game. Like, she's the game winner. Both commons, inexpensive. Another two cards I would suggest. Deadman Prince and Moon Knight Pouncer. I would suggest Deadman Prince because when he enters, even though he is a 3-drop, you get to return a Resonator from your grave to your hand. So say it's late game, say you've gone into, like, you didn't want to get super late game, but you did anyway, most of your good card soldiers are going to discard, or even her. You can play him, get her back, that way that turn or next turn, because that's a lot of mana to do in one turn. Play her, get your card soldiers back, kind of. With him, you can kind of loop and recycle your stuff. It's obviously not a real loop, but it's a way to get your stuff back. So he's also Darkness, and he's a 5/5, so if you equipped him with the Joker's Clothes, he's a 7/7. Great card. Then for Moon Knight Pouncer, he is a 2-drop Nightmare Werewolf, but he's a werewolf that doesn't need to have other ones to work, so it's pretty good. His continuous effect is whenever you play a normal spell, he gains First Stripe and Swiftness until end of turn. A normal spell is anything that is not a Resonator. So say you play him, and then you play Joker's Clothes, bam, he's online, his effect's working. So he's just a way to kind of deal more damage quicker, and he's got a big body on his own for a cheap cost. So these are 2 more cards I would suggest. And then because you have access to red, you have access to some really trolly cards. 7 Dwarves, while not fantastic, he has to attack every turn. He's a 2-drop 7/7. So you can equip the Joker's Clothes to him, make him a 3-drop 9/9, have a big beat stick. You have to swing every turn, but it's still pretty good. Poison Apple, Kusanagi Sword, and Purifying Fire. Purifying Fire, because you are, I don't know, maybe you do run Joan of Arc, but you're probably not going to be running Joan of Arc as your ruler in this deck, so you only get to use one of the effects. But you can either do 700 to your opponent, or 1,000 to a human on the board. So it's kind of situational. Obviously Thunder is the way better version of this card, but because we're trying to stay as budget as possible, you can still run this one, hit your opponent for damage just to kind of speed up the game, sway it in your favor. You never know when that dirty burn spell is going to win the game for you. Kusanagi Sword, it's a 2-drop Edition Resonator. When it enters, you deal 600 damage to target Resonator. That's pretty much the only reason you want to run it, just because when you play it, you can bomb almost 50% of the cards in the deck, because most stuff is 500 or lower, especially early game. So play it, bomb something, more removal, and then its continuous effect with the Resonator attached with this would deal damage. It deals the damage plus 200. So it doesn't raise their attack, but it does make them do a little more damage, which is always helpful. And then last up is Poison Apple. I would suggest this one absolutely, even at a playset, even though it's got a little detriment. This thing has won the game against me more than once. It's 2-drop, instant. Target Resonator you control gets plus 1,000 plus 0 until end of turn. At end of turn, destroy the Resonator. So, say you're swinging, whatever, you're attacking with your spade, and they don't block, just drop that, make him huge, and they've just taken half their life points in one hit. If your board is filled with card soldiers. So, fantastic card, definitely would suggest running it. It's common, so easy. And, I'm going to mention this card just because I'm sure someone will say I didn't, but this one does have the Queen of Hearts written on it, so it's kind of funny if you want to go with the whole art aspect. This card technically goes with the theme. But it's a 2-drop standby, and when a Resonator your opponent controls attacks you, you activate this, your opponent banishes a non-attacking Resonator they control, and you gain life equal to its defense. So it's actually pretty trolly. Not the best standby, but because it is a common, sticks with the budget theme, adds to the spot removal theme we've established, and is in your colors. So you get a little life points back, which is always nice to give yourself a buffer. You get rid of one of their cards. However, the only problem with this is that it says target, they have to banish a non-attacking Resonator, means they have to have at least one more on the board to make it work. So sometimes you might not hit that scenario, but you're going to assume they at least have 2 Resonators on their board when you activate this, so still a pretty good card. And yeah, that is my not as short as I wanted, but still kind of short deck, or budget deck idea for the card soldiers. Let me know what you guys think, if you like it. I would love to see people who actually play this deck, what they run, how they do it. I kind of tried to leave it as generic as possible so you can put your own spin on it. This was just a look at the core. Whatever ruler you decide to run, I'd love to see what you guys do, how you guys make it kind of trolly, and how well it does for you guys. And if you want to see a deck like this in action, let me know. I'll go ahead and put one together and do some matches with it. So, thank you, and have a good day.